Hello, my studious art sluts. It's Allison Moon, and you're listening to the Artgasm podcast. On today's episode, I have a delightful, lovely, giggle-filled interview with the co-owners of Category Is Books in Glasgow, Scotland, Charlotte and Fee. But before we get to the interview, just a couple of announcements. First up, if you've been listening on a regular basis, first of all, thank you. Second of all, you may have noticed that in the second season, I started doing something slightly different, where I interspersed every other week a quickie, a short episode that's just me talking. And those quickies I usually only offer to my Patreon supporters, but I wanted to at least kind of get the ball rolling this season by adding them to my normal docket. Well, that was cool, but I'm going to go back to reserving those only for my Patreon supporters as a show of gratitude for them supporting me through a long hiatus. And so if you like those quickies, if you would like to hear more of those quickies, the best way of doing it is by becoming a patron at patreon.com. That's patreon.com/artgasm. And there you get access to my back catalog. And then I'm going to continue doing those special every other week episodes specifically for my patrons. So if you enjoy it, this is a really great way of supporting me and the podcast while we all social distance and reduce our hours and all the other challenges that we're experiencing economically. Patreon is definitely a wonderful way to support me. So patreon.com/artgasm is a great way of doing it. Another kind of random announcement is that you might notice that if you're listening to this when it first comes out, it is Wednesday today. My previous schedule had me posting these on Tuesdays. Well, because of all of the challenges with the COVID changes to work, etc., Mondays have become my busiest days of freelancing, so I just don't have time to create these for Tuesday morning deliveries. So I'm going to be making these on Tuesdays and delivering them on Wednesdays. So I'm going to be adjusting the schedule by one day, so you'll get new episodes first thing in the morning on Wednesdays every other week. I hope that doesn't cause any concern in your world, but it will certainly make my life a lot easier. So I appreciate you sticking with me. And of course, in the meantime, I know that, as we've been dealing with all of this new world of media consumption, podcasts have been one of the few things that have reduced in their access and in their reach because people aren't commuting as much, people aren't going to the gym, people aren't spending 45 minutes listening to humans talk in their ears as much as they used to. And one of the best things that you can do to support this podcast, if not by becoming a Patreon supporter, is by just spreading the word, sharing episodes that you like, listening to the back catalog, and amplifying the reach. It's really helpful to have people vouch for this podcast, and I get a lot of wonderful emails from people and a lot of wonderful DMs from people, but it's always wonderful to see somebody tweeting or sharing an episode out in the wild with their own friends and fans, because it certainly helps me diversify and reach to new people, and then of course improve my access so that I can get new and exciting guests on as well. Speaking of exciting guests, allow me to take us back in time to a simpler, more innocent time when things like travel and congregating in public spaces were just so normal and so taken for granted. So this was a wonderful interview that came from just a cool human connection. Last December, my partner and I went to Glasgow, Scotland, on our way to visit my family in the Highlands for a Christmas family vacation. It was a wonderful trip. It was amazing. It was also my first time to Scotland. And I knew that there was this queer-owned bookstore in Glasgow because they had been ordering my books, and they had reached out to me directly to do an order, which is always lovely too, because it allows me to meet independent bookstore owners. Independent bookstore owners are some of the coolest people on the planet, and I love being able to discuss with them their experiences as small business owners and also how they reach their clientele and how they find people and how they find authors. And there is a personal touch with an independent bookstore that is just impossible to recreate online, particularly among the large box stores. There's something really beautiful about being able to call up somebody who's a total nerd for books and tell them what you're interested in, and then having them try to meet your desires and your needs. And it's a really special relationship, and I love it. And so Charlotte and Fee had reached out to me, I don't even know, maybe 2 years ago, to say that they had opened this bookstore and they were starting to carry books, and they wanted me to ship them some copies of Girl Sex 101 and Bad Dyke and the werewolf books. And so, of course, I did that, and we kind of created a little bit of an email chain thing, such that when I had plans to be in Scotland, I'm like, oh, I should definitely go to Glasgow and I should definitely meet these people. So my partner and I spent a lovely 2 days in Glasgow and just enjoyed the beautiful, awesome city that it is. And then I sat down with Charlotte and Fee and got to talk to them about their experiences opening this queer bookshop in this up-and-coming neighborhood in Glasgow and all of the challenges and the excitement that they encountered. And one of the things that you'll notice in this interview is just how much they are so excited about creating space for community. And it's kind of challenging to listen to this interview now because I think one of the things that so many of us are missing right now is the experience of community, the experience of just being able to share space, not even necessarily with friends, just with strangers. And again, there's something very special about bookstores, about independent shops, and about spaces that are curated specifically to a community's needs. And Category Is Books is a special place. And it would be a special place anywhere in the world, and it's a particularly special place in Glasgow. And so while I would say to you right now, if you're in the UK, please go visit, that is not a reality. But they are still sending books. They're still shipping books around the UK, probably further than the UK borders. And so if you are looking for a book, please do consider reaching out to your local independent bookstore and ordering from them. And if you're in the UK, please check out categoryisbooks.com and they will send you a book. And they're great on email too. So if you're looking for something specific, if you have that kind of like, I'm into mysteries written by POC women that don't include violence against children, like if you have specific needs, these people can help you find the perfect book for you. So in these times when we are not able to congregate to do queer yoga or to have meetup groups or real life book clubs, these are the kinds of relationships and these are the kinds of cultural institutions that need your support more than ever, and at the same time provide invaluable service to the community and also just larger populations. I think that this is a really important thing, and you're going to hear in detail the various ways in which they've fostered community for their neighborhood. And I really think it's wonderful. So without further ado, allow me to introduce you to Charlotte and Fee of Category Is Books. Here.
Nice.
So yay, I'm so excited to be sitting in Glasgow with two awesome people who run an awesome queer, can I use the word queer for this, right? Queer bookstore.
We call it a queer bookstore.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's always an interesting thing about nationalities where it's like queer is such a reclaimed word in the States, but at the same time, like you go into these small enclaves and they're still like not.
And there's really interesting discourse already coming up about that, I think, as we get like a more global talk about things.
Yeah.
I think some people are like saying, no, what? You can't, it's just white people reclaiming slurs is a terrible thing.
I love the word queer.
But I think it has worth as an umbrella term in so many ways.
So, Fee, why do you love the word queer?
I think I love the word queer because it encompasses so many things, and I think for me it means not needing to like pigeonhole yourself into like a very distinct box.
Yeah.
Like to be queer can look at gender and sexuality and community and history and like lots of these things kind of all together and how they all intersect together without it necessarily being you are exactly this, and because those things grow and change, and I think queer is a really lovely expression of like acknowledging that things grow and change and that you as people, as a person, will grow and change as well, and that's sort of part of what we can embrace as queer folk as well.
Nice.
So I like that.
Yeah.
Word. Yeah. I also love it when like old dudes come in here and they're like,
about it.
that you can't use that word, and you're like, just because you yelled at someone 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Probably me.
Hello. Sorry, we're not open.
Oh, right.
I'm really sorry.
Okay, no
if it's
Cool.
Thanks.
I'm gonna quickly turn that sign.
That'll keep happening.
I know.
So this is actually a lovely segue. Where are we right now?
We're in the south side of Glasgow, in our shop.
Which is called Categories Books.
Yes.
So can you tell me about the name of the bookstore?
Yes. We're big like information nerds. And we really love with the bookshop really love looking at different ways to categorize the books. So rather than having like an L, a G, a B, a T sort of categories. Actually being able to, like, we have categories in here that are like books that have maps at the beginning, or lesbians with lots of feelings, or is that really it?
Yeah.
That's this whole section.
Or horror
Magic and
and
witches.
gore, which is horror and then just Gore Vidal. Which I came up with on Halloween. I was like, I'm never going to top this. This is the best category.
Amazing.
And we used to have more 90s than a Polaroid of Angelina Jolie smoking a cigarette, I think, which was a quote from an article someone wrote about like a book in the shop, and we were like, that's amazing.
So getting to use categories, and then as ways to explore, I guess, or different ways of exploring with the books that are coming out now, but also being able to mix in like queer history and like books that maybe were published a while ago in with new stuff, and like looking at different ways that we can tell those stories or like understand that information. But also we love drag, so it was kind of that combination of like a kind of reference to drag, but also combined with our information inquiry.
What's the reference to drag? I don't quite follow.
So there's a film Paris is Burning, and in Paris is Burning it shows the ball culture, which was huge and sort of still is very, very vibrant, particularly for queer people of colour in New York and all over. But anyway, they have balls where you can walk in a category, so it'll be announced like category is Butch Queen Realness, category is Lumberjack Lesbian, or Fantastic Finance District. I just feel like they do a really weird mix, and we quite loved that. And then also it was adopted by RuPaul in Drag Race, and category is when they walk the runway.
Oh, fantastic. Gosh, I didn't even pick that up, and that's an American term. How funny. Thank you, Scottish people, for educating me on my own culture. So that's awesome. So are you both from Glasgow?
No.
I grew up in Edinburgh.
And I grew up in Auchtermuchty.
Oh, I don't know where that is.
It's in Fife, which is sort of East Coast Scotland. But we went to school together in Edinburgh.
Okay. And what brought you to Glasgow?
I went to study at the art school in Glasgow.
Nice.
To be honest, I couldn't wait to get out of Edinburgh. So like the second I could leave,
Really?
I was like straight over to the West Coast.
Interesting.
And I moved for this beautiful human being.
Oh, well, that's so nice.
Yeah.
But also because it's wonderful. I'm not Fife. Which is like only queer in the village kind of thing.
Classic.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. So you're a couple as well?
Yes.
And so was the shared dream of owning a bookstore what sealed the deal for you two, or?
No. That suggests much more planning for the bookshop. No. It was what sealed the deal for us was I
was like in like after our first coffee, so like it wasn't.
That's because I spilled water down myself.
It was very cute.
Classic.
And also, you had been lying, not telling me that we already knew each other.
Yeah, I did recognize your face.
Recognise my. Yeah, but we used to play flute together, so we had a really geeky conversation about flute. I think that's You had a you did have a bookshelf.
We met online.
Okay.
On like, I think it's still around, like an app called Her. It was
sure,
yeah. So like, but it was like before it was Her. It was called like Datch. It was like the early version of it, but you could.
All it was at that point was that you put like pictures. It was like, what's that thing I don't use?
Facebook?
That I don't use that. Pinterest. It was like Pinterest mixed with Tinder.
Oh, okay.
So you put like images of what you liked, and Fee had this wonderful one of like a beautifully curated bookshelf.
Oh yeah, that's
and I
seductive.
was like, that's amazing.
Like, and yes, yes, I would like one of those.
Exactly.
And you had really nice like pens and pencils. I was like, yeah, I'm in.
Office
Pencil
supplies.
case is well organized.
Siren song of queers everywhere.
Yeah.
Nice office supplies and books.
Yeah, totally.
No.
And that was it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How long have you been together?
Oh, don't do this. We can't remember. It's like maybe 5
or
to 6. 5 to 6 years.
Okay.
5 to
We have been married for 3 to 5? 3 to 4? We're really bad at this.
As long as you're both bad at it. If one is bad at it and the other one's good at it, then it can be all sorts
I do
of
know we
strife,
met in January though, so we have some sort of...
Yeah. And it's nice that we mutually don't give a fuck. Like, we're happy. It's still happening.
My partner and I, we've been talking about actually getting legally married, although for a long time we were kind of resistant to it. But we were like, the only time we'll get legally married is on February 29th, because it's a leap year. And so then we'll only have...
That's a wonderful plan.
It's the best day.
Yeah, because then we'll only have to celebrate our anniversary once every 4 years, and we can just let it go the rest of the time.
That's so true.
Yeah, so I don't know. We're thinking about it because this year's a leap year, so we're considering it. Anyway.
Do you want a crazy coincidence?
But also, someone wants to propose to someone this year on February 29th in here. Who's like, she's like properly planning.
Oh.
Like, yeah, I had to propose. But unfortunately, it's also the weekend of my 30th birthday, and I'm like really weighing up, like, beautiful, someone else's queer love story.
Or
also,
to go to work.
I want to celebrate my birthday.
Yeah, fair enough. A little bit of both. Have them bring you cake.
Yeah. But also, we were cleaning out your grandparents' house because your granddad died recently, and we found like a secret love letter, maybe in the back of a recipe book.
Yeah.
That was all based around the proposal of a leap year.
Oh, really?
To my granny from this woman named Kate.
Wait, what?
Yes! It's amazing.
Queer ancestors, what?
Which I think I have been searching for a long time.
Right? Yeah.
Because, well, there's a lot of my family I no longer speak to, but we were cleaning out this house and found I think it's written in the 30s or 40s. And it's like, today is a leap year, so I'm allowed to ask. And then it's just like beautiful long love letter proposing like love and bright prospects.
Yeah,
together.
So from your grandma to a woman that you don't know.
No, a woman that we don't know to my granny. But then she's kept it.
Yeah.
Like folded up in this recipe book for...
Is your granny still alive?
No.
Oh.
And she was married to my grandpa for a long time. But yeah, it was a really amazing artifact to find.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like that. Did you ever watch Queer as Folk, the American version?
No, it's on our. We've never seen it.
Oh, okay.
So we need to.
I mean, the lesbians are not well represented, but there's a.
It should be a big shock.
Yeah, I know. But there's a lot of gay sex if you like gay sex. There's a whole plot line with one of the lesbians her whole family's really homophobic, and she finds her grandma's stash of these love letters that she had shared with another woman. She realizes that like she actually had queer family the entire time. It's really beautiful.
Okay, that's what we'll watch over Christmas.
Yeah. So, but I think it's like not until like season 4. So
it's okay. We'll jump in.
Waiting for a lot of just retrograde queer norms. So
it's my favorite queer norms.
Oh man, classic. Anyway, so okay, let's talk more about the book stuff.
Yes.
So you've been together for 5 or 6 years,
yes.
And then the bookstore's been open for about a year.
Year and a half.
So tell me about the idea and when you actually decided to make it real.
I think we were, so previously to the bookshop, Charlotte is still an artist, but was primarily working as an artist, and I was working as a designer. But we were coming home every night and just like watching a lot of documentaries about queer history, and also like reading a lot and being really frustrated that because we both grew up, so in the UK there was a thing called Section 28, which made it like illegal for any teachers to like talk about queerness in any way when you were at school. So like there was no education whatsoever or even acknowledgement that like other queers existed.
Wow.
So which was and it wasn't repealed until I think like the 2000s. So it took a long time to get repealed, and so we both grew up having absolutely no context or knowledge that like gay people or queer people existed at all.
Wow.
So then we kind of found ourselves in our kind of 20s then kind of working out just like really wanting to work out our own history and like different communities that existed. So I think that we were just doing that so much that we sort of then wanted to work together as well. And then
there were so many things. I think as well it was the time that sort of stuff started to change. We noticed like a climate in the air where like yes, we'd come so far for so many people's different rights, but actually we were coming to a halt with like the way that people were talking about gender and trans rights, particularly in the UK, and it was like, oh, okay, there actually still needs to be that space where conversation happens, visibility happens, like, but learning primarily is the biggest thing that needs to happen. So we saw lots of hate sort of rising up, and we're like, oh, I think actually this is still needed, and maybe a reiteration of what it was, because there's been queer bookshops or gay and lesbian bookshops throughout history. Some didn't survive, some are long-standing, like Gay's the Word in London, but that was mostly sort of gay and lesbian, and also it fought the rights of like gay marriage or all of that, or decriminalisation things. So there was still more to be talked about, there was still more to fight for, there was still more to like question and unpick. So we were like, we better do something.
It's interesting because I feel like that's such a conversation that's happening in the States around like, well, you know, queers have so many rights now, like we're able to integrate into society in new ways, so then what do we even need our own spaces for? And we see this all the time, like whenever a lesbian bar closes, where it's like, well, lesbians can go to any bar, so who cares? But then we are reminded, whether it's politics or something horrible that happens in your community, where it's like actually spaces where you can congregate with like-minded people are still incredibly valid. Even if we can go to a bar or get married, it doesn't actually change the fact that we still need our spaces to find each other.
Absolutely.
And especially with the pendulum swinging, and again, I'm really sorry about your current political situation. I feel
it's
like
a shit show, don't worry.
In solidarity in such a strange way right now.
I know. It's almost like there's one overlord.
It's like the lizard people are truly taking over. So yeah, but yeah, I feel like, and that's the thing, like that, the backlash, right? So it's like when we see that happen, we actually see these backsliding of rights in certain ways, and it's like, no, actually, we still have so much more to fight for and to hold on to. Do you find that a lot of people come in here knowing that they're looking for this place, or with curiosity, or something in between?
It's a real mix.
A bit of both actually.
Some people very much like will travel, which is amazing, or we'll be travelling to Scotland or Glasgow, and we'll sort of Google it and find that we're here, and make a trip. I think lots of people locally did stumble into it as well.
Yeah, we didn't really advertise when it opened, we just sort of put out a couple of tweets being like, this opens today.
That's not true. We handed out 500 green
Pride.
carnations at Pride with a
that.
flyer at the bottom, or a little
That's
zine
true.
explaining the importance of the green carnation within queer history. We did prep. We just
you're
didn't
right,
do
you're
that
right.
like bullshit hype, like, oh what? 9 days to go, baby.
That's right.
Exhausting.
Right?
But yeah, people then really showed up that first day.
Yeah.
Like, it was amazing. And so I think, then since then, there's like definitely this, like during the week, a lot of it's people who live in the area who are popping in, like for books, but mainly for community, and like
Chat, a cup of tea.
that.
Yeah, this is a lovely little seating area in the center of the room here. And I mean, do you have like events, or is it still okay? What kind of stuff do you do?
There's stuff on most, not this week because it's the last week before the end of the year.
Yeah.
But like most weeks there's something on like every night.
So we've got a mixture of like some like authors come and visit, which is amazing, and do readings or signings or Q&As. But also we've got sort of regular events. We do yoga every Saturday morning, sort of for queer bodies, which is really lovely. And people just rock up in pajamas, and there's no sort of again bullshit, which is wonderful. Poetry workshops a lot as well. Open mic nights.
Film screenings. Theatre readings of international plays that can't get read where they've been written, if that makes sense. So like if it's illegal to perform queer work, then there's been instances where they've been read in the shop.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
It's amazing.
Wow.
We have a craft workshop every month.
Yeah.
A crafternoon. Which is really cute. We were going to count out what all the things have been this year. We haven't done it yet. But
we want. I think we're the amount of
reading groups.
It's been silly. We've done lots, but it's been wonderful.
It's been quite. This year has been quite a kind of like, let's just try stuff.
Sure.
Year.
To work out what people like, what people need, what works, what doesn't work. Whatever you can put in the space, we kind of Yeah.
I tried to make it
as
work.
long as it's...
It's a little space, but it works.
Yeah.
I can see it. I can see it working. And you have beautiful street frontage too. It's quite lovely.
It's nice. It's interesting street frontage.
Yeah. You have a view. That's something.
I really enjoy watching everyone walk past. Because, so this area of Glasgow is called Govan Hill, or Southside, but there's 52 languages spoken within a square mile of the shop.
Whoa.
Which is, it's amazing. So, like, it's such a, really beautiful area to live in that sense. But, it also means that you get this, like, just so many people walking past the shop, which is really wonderful. But people either know what it is and kind of come straight in, or I really love watching the curiosity.
Sure.
Fill out the windows, you're just like, what is that? Like, what's going on in there? And then inevitably someone might come in and ask for a book that, like, of course we don't stop.
Yeah, then you're like,
where's Roald Dahl? And you're like, I don't have Roald Dahl. Like,
how many Bibles have you got?
It depends on what you consider a Bible. You sell girl sex 101.
Exactly. Lots of these books are used as Bibles.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. And so is this kind of a neighborhood too, or is
up and coming?
Oh, yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's a very diverse area. There are a lot of migrants, but there's a lot of queer people as well, as you get in those areas where it's cheap for rent, but it's sort of changing slowly. There's a bit of a curve going up, and sort of whispers of gentrification and things like that.
It's like, no, resist! So we're trying to balance.
So making sure, but it's also very community-led, which is amazing. There's lots of initiatives. There's like a local currency that they're working on, so that like you can disrupt the wealth sort of imbalance. A feminist cryptocurrency.
Whoa.
There's lots of really interesting things that at the heart of it is about like the people who live here, as opposed to what fancy things the people who live here can't afford.
Sure.
Which is interesting. But yes, there's been a real spike in the amount of gay people or queer people in the neighbourhood, which is amazing. But also people have lived here for years, and we just didn't know that we had community around the corner. And it took like opening something for people to come out and be like, well, I'm queer, I'm here.
Right. Well, it's a great testament to why it's still important to have storefronts.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a, I mean, I don't know if this is happening in the UK too, but obviously in the States, queer, or not queer, but just bookstores in general are closing all the time. Amazon changed the entire book selling dynamic. And I think a lot of people forgot how important it is, again, for not only a bookstore to be a place where you walk in and buy something, but a place where you meet people, you chat, you talk to people who have recommendations for you, and it becomes a community source. It's not just a commerce space.
No, of course. And it's also that thing of we had to really, like, we really wanted people to browse, because that concept of like browsing information is so lost in some senses when you're like, I want this book. Like, we also have people who come in with an Amazon screen being like, have you got this book?
Right.
And it's like, that's great, you know what you want. But like that beautiful journey of going across a shelf and like finding something that you didn't know was there, or you didn't know that you were going to love, is also something that we really wanted to make sure that we were offering people that experience. And
come for the vampires and stay for the Gore Vidal.
How can you say no?
I mean, it does say so much about, like, just the kind of encouraging people to expand their horizon, even in just small ways, by looking at the other books on the other side of the book that they're looking at.
Exactly.
And that's huge. I think that, like, that's what I love about bookstores. It feels like a treasure hunt. It feels like you're going to go in wanting one thing, but leave probably spending way more money than you wanted to. But, like, having exciting new things to look at.
And because our history is so, like, disparate and also invisible and also hidden, like, the minute you bring those things together, you start to piece things together in a different way, and you get this much amazing fuller picture of things. And I think that's also why we love the categories and the way that we get to curate the shelves, is that, yes, those books, either side of a book, become really important to sort of tell that narrative that's been not told before, or not linked together, or not shown together.
And also getting to lift up people's voices. Like, I think what we've really appreciated is that, like, what we get to do every day, which is like researching new books and like putting those names on the shelf, is that, like, we get to pick who's on the shelf. And that means that, like, yes, we do prioritize like trans writers writing about trans experience, like, because that like having our own voices on there makes sense kind of thing, and having like really making sure that we have a really diverse range of writers that again like are on the shelf, and like that's what we prioritize. Is kind of, because when you go into like a straight bookshop, it's like you've really got to look.
You don't have to whisper straight.
I know. Straight bookshops. I just feel like the straight bookshops get really mad when we call them straight bookshops.
But they are.
I know they are, but they'll be like, well, we have, I don't know, like we still have Tales of the City somewhere in here.
We have 2 of Allison Bechdel's books.
Maybe.
With the special order the second one. Yeah,
totally that. So like, it feels really exciting to be able to be like, no, this is the stuff that actually we should be sharing and reading, and like being able to explore that the big bookshops or straight bookshops maybe don't kind of unless it's like Pride Month, where they maybe have a display.
Or they have a really wonderful like core team of staff who are like actually queer and actually care about that as well, which I think is making lots of really wonderful underground changes, like
a little subversion.
Totally, 100%. Yeah, it's wonderful. Awesome. Lots of them come here for their books and then tell us of the wonderful queer joy they're spreading.
Oh, yay!
So that's nice.
Happy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So do you have any like ambitions for what you would like the next phase of, now that you're up and running and successful, to look like?
Yes.
Absolutely.
We'd love to have a tiny press, like a small press, and start doing like publishing stuff.
Cool. We've got a collection that we're getting together at the moment of like recipes from authors that have been to the shop, but also the community members who use the shop, or also the food that's brought to us to the shop. We get brought food a lot, wonderful food.
Nice.
So it's all the recipes, but also the little bits of story about like, why do you make this? And it's called macaroni. Because in like the 18th century, it's like a really early example of queer people in publishing, was they had these like macaroni shops where they would make these like caricature-y like drawings and images of like mainly like effeminate men, and they were sort of done in this like not particularly, like they weren't like nice, like they weren't like liberation.
Yeah, they weren't like liberation thing. They were kind of like taking the piss in a sense. They had these print shops, and they called them like the macaroni print shops, and they made these macaroni pieces. But I guess we just again really like the idea of reclaiming that, and also referencing that like queer people have been around for such a long time,
as have queer slurs as well.
So that's why we're calling it.
But also, it's like bent pasta. That is the funniest joke.
That was why. Because it was like the opposite of like British beef, which was all like masky mask, and then they were like these macaronis.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I learned something new. That's good.
Not straight pasta.
Well, it's like the joke about like women in general. It's like, well, you sure you're straight? So is spaghetti until you heat it up.
I've never heard that. I'm going to use that 9 times today.
Perfect. Well, I would be remiss if we didn't mention before we close the personals wall, or I don't know what you call it, the classifieds wall, personals
walls.
Yeah. So you, in this corner of the shop, you have these beautiful slips of paper that people write personal ads on and post them to the wall with their phone numbers and their email addresses and cute little doodles. Which again, like I think just speaks to
their dog on there.
I think it's really important to mention if you have a dog. I mean, I think that does like upgrade.
And Chaos, I know the dog personally, is a wonderful dog. Anyone who got to spend time with Chaos would be.
That's all. But I love. Like, I mean, I think it just speaks so much to, again, this is being a space for community, where it's like you come in looking for a new book and leave maybe with a phone number or two.
It's really interesting how people use it.
Really?
And like we've had it since we opened, and it's grown slowly and quickly all at the same time.
It used to be on that pillar. That was the initial one.
Okay.
And then it got too big, and then it was, the counter used to be in a different spot, so then it was on the stairs, and then that got too big, and so that's why it's gone to the back wall.
Fantastic.
But I think it's going to have to go somewhere else.
I know, it's really growing.
But it's nice because it does different things.
Yeah.
Like, some of it is like, do you want to hook up? Some of it is like, do you need somewhere?
And take me to the sea. It's my favourite
poetry as well. Like pure poetry. You know, like we do like a monthly zine of what's happening in the shop, and we often do like a quote from the personals wall of like the best things that we've read. Didn't Take Me to the Sea was the best for a while.
I really love that. I think we should put that on a t-shirt.
Actually, yeah, that's good. I like that a lot.
But it's also like there's loads that are like, if you're ever coming to Dublin, let me know. Or if you're ever traveling to France, let me know. And that's so wonderful.
Maybe I'll put one up about if you're ever in Oregon.
Seriously. Because it's also that concept that you could go to a city anywhere in the world and actually have like, it's hard to access sometimes queer culture other places unless you have sort of, not that it should be kept, but like a tour guide.
Yeah, well, again, like kind of this, when I went to San Francisco the first time, I went to Lexington because I was like, I need to find my people. Yeah. And now there's no Lexington, so it's like, how do you do that? And it's I think it's important.
Personal wolves.
Scotland. I feel like there's some sort of like mystery romance novel that's like going to be coming from that wall.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah. I really hope so.
Yeah. It was also loosely based on. I don't use Instagram. You do the Instagram, but there's a Personals. There's a Personals Instagram account which used to be they would post like old Personals. I think used to be in like.
I'm sure that's how it started because. Obviously, especially with like Personals posting, there is that like beauty of the language and the hidden sort of meanings of things historically, and the signalling and the sort of what's that word? Flagging, which we're also like have lots of workshops about because it's so fascinating. But yeah, then they did it just like, like the old quirky Personals, but for new, and it's like, it was cute. It was nice.
Totally.
People write poetry when they have to write about themselves because they get so like.
Yeah, it's far more seductive than like a picture of yourself on the beach. Where like I signed up for Tinder and things a couple months ago, and I was just like, ugh. I could feel I didn't like what happened to my brain. Like I was like, now I'm just judging people on these really ridiculous like things that I never notice or care about otherwise. Yeah. Suddenly I'm judging because that's all I have to go on. Yeah. It's frustrating. So yes, if I can like be wooed by a little bit of poetry or turn of phrase, far more interesting to me.
It's the turn of phrase that I love. And we also what's really cute is have like lots of kids that come in or young people who are like they just quite on it like really are posting being like, do you want to come watch Buffy with me? Which is really lovely. Find
your people.
It's pure cute. It's the cutest.
It's very cute. I also think that sometimes it's like if it's people's first few times in the shop, it's almost like a thing that people will be like, I'm going to write my Personals now. But it can take them a few times to then be like, okay, I'm going on the wall. And then it's like, okay, you're like, I don't know, it's like you've decided that you're like in.
Yeah.
Nice. But then also people come and alter them, and that's the cutest. Like maybe like if
no
they've
longer
like
single.
or like now polyamorous.
Suddenly bisexual.
Seriously. Or it's lovely when it's
or they come and change their pronouns.
Yeah, they come and change their pronouns. And it's like,
that's lovely.
It's beautiful.
Very cute.
It's really beautiful. And we also had a straight guy come in and be like, I just really love trans women, but like not in a like exploitative way. Would it be acceptable if I put my own post up? And it's like,
ask.
I know. He was like, I don't know if this is appropriate because I'm straight. But that involved like taking that trans women are women at the core of it. So we were like, absolutely. But we know of many trans women who would like to be taken to dinner by you. So
Yay! Good job, guy.
Yeah, right.
It's like a nice little.
Congrats. That wasn't horrible.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, okay, so if people are in Glasgow, obviously they can come and just visit and meet you. Do you have an online presence? Can people order books from you online? Like, how does this work?
They can.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful mystery tour. You can email us, and then we'll see if we can do something for you.
Okay.
And then we can post things out. We haven't got online much, but we're on Instagram and we're on Twitter, and we post regularly like reading lists or like suggestions for, depending on what's happening in the world as well.
Yeah.
So JK was shite yesterday.
Ugh.
Well, has always been shite.
Yeah.
So we were like, here's some great books about magic written by wonderful people who aren't TERFs.
So I read all of them this year because I was already upset about losing my chance to enjoy Harry Potter. So all the queer magic school books I have been reading all year.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, which is really nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
So if you're an author, there you go. There's more to be done.
No, seriously. The stack was not big enough.
Yeah.
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 Oh, lovely.
But yeah, you can also email us.
Yes.
Post things out.
Yes.
Yeah, book nerds are great. So if you have questions about, like, hey, how can I find queer fill in the blank? You guys probably...
We're really good at that. Yeah.
And there are less than 35 queer bookshops in the world, but there are 35-ish of them.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
3 in the UK, yeah?
3 in the UK, and then I think quite a lot still in the States.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
hopefully more will open.
Yes.
That's our plan. That's
Yeah.
our hope.
Encourage others to, like, make their own shops.
Yeah, and as social media becomes less and less awesome for queers too, it's nice to have real meet space where we actually meet each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we need a meeting place when the apocalypse happens.
Come to Category if you find yourself in the west of Scotland.
To burn. No. No, but you're so right. It's not safe online for so many people at the moment. So if you're like a young trans kid needing to talk to other trans people, like that's a hard thing online now. Whereas you can come in here and we've got loads of information about like local resources, local meetings, and also like there's usually someone in the shop who's like, I've got an idea too. So it's amazing.
Oh,
but yeah.
Well, since it's the holiday season, I'm going to let you get back to business.
Thank you.
And
Since it's so busy.
It will be.
It will be.
Totally. Well, Charlotte Fee, thank you so much for talking to me. This was
We love your books. I'm so glad you're here.
It's such a delight. I mean, I love meeting booksellers, and it's just like every time. I mean, I'm sure you experience the same thing on the other side of it, but like for me as an author to like even just see a photograph of my book in situ on a shelf somewhere in the world is just floods me with just love and appreciation. So walking in and being able to sign copies of my books like in a country that I've never been to before, I'm like, this is the coolest experience of my life.
But with like your book so much, like particularly someone will go away with one and then they're instantly back for another. Like no other book I've ever seen, but it's just so rapid of like, I need more of this.
Last night my partner was telling me, he's like, you need to write the next werewolf book.
You really do, by the way.
I
No,
know.
seriously.
I started writing a prequel, but
Loves a prequel. Finish that.
Everybody missed Archer so much, and so I'm like, I just need to give Archer her origin story. But
You really do.
yeah, well, we'll see. I'm working on it.
Fingers crossed.
I'm working on it. Yeah, awesome.
You can come to a...
Yeah, I know, right? I can do a reading. I'll do an
Totally.
international tour.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me.
thank you.
I wish you all the best. This is such a lovely space. It feels so cozy and wonderful here. So thank you.
No, thank you.
Awesome. Yay. Great. And that is it for this week's episode of Artgasm. Again, I will not be here next week, but if you are interested in hearing my quickies, you can go to patreon.com/artgasm, sign up, I think at the $3 level or more, and you'll be able to get access to all of my archives and then also listening to all of my new episodes as they come out. If you want to buy a book, please do it from an indie bookstore. And if you're in the UK, please consider ordering from Category Is Books. They're wonderful human beings, and I'm so happy that they exist. And in the meantime, if you want to reach out to me, you can do so on Twitter at HeyAllieMoon, that's HeyAllieMoon, or you can reach out to me via email at artgasmcast@gmail.com. Otherwise, I will see you and talk to you again in 2 weeks with another interview. Thanks so much for being here. I'll talk to you later. Bye.